First of all, I want to thank on behalf of Margaret's family, everybody who's gathered here this morning to welcome Margaret back to their family home in Commedagh Drive. And there's no more a fitting place, I suppose, where we assemble this morning than at Kieran's monument here in Commedagh. Everybody will know that the Doherty family spent almost 50 years in number 54, where Alfie and where Margaret reared their 6 children and many grandchildren and so on. Many of us gathered here today will always know that we were always very, very welcome into that home. I always remember, particularly on New Year's Eve, whenever we would have gathered around in the house, called into the house, wishing the family well and for a new year. And Margaret and Alfie would have sat and had Kieran's photographs and artefacts and artwork and so on gathered there. And she had a word for everybody. She seemed to know everybody coming in the door, and she had a particular memory for those individuals who came in. So Commedagh Drive was a very, very happy home for the Doherty family. It is wonderful that Margaret is able to come back here this morning because, as I said, Margaret and Alfie reared their family and their grandchildren. It was a home to many, many friends and comrades, loved ones, and especially been surrounded by so many good neighbours. So the family memories and Margaret's memories of this home in number 54 are very, very fond. They're deep-rooted and they're loving. They were surrounded with good neighbours, and those good neighbours were there in the good times, and they're also there with the family in the less good times.
Dave, a Carja, a Smisha, Jerry Adams, agus Tamara, a couple of focal garage, and you, Riv, our Priv, our Priv Cantor, Caoimhghín Ó Caoláin. Agus it's more an honour, Domsa, Abe Canche Gug, Margaret Doherty, is agus Ba. Sparbani, Malik, Ban go Huntak, Ban Granwer, Ban Gandoit, go Ro She, August Alfie, a Gumper, Leshna, Shirley Allen, Fear, Burbas or Stalkocris, Bishit a Gumper, and Strugolch, our Strugolch, Egan Summer, Awad. Contarru a wad o him. So bawalium mabwehes a horde Stevesha, Guljar, August na Comradahan, the fear Pludawalon, August Egan Chuck Rushing, August there'll be Alex Maskey, Concheck Commedagh, Dord Alex Guru, Falsha, Rowing a leg in Shin, August B. Ganaris or B, we Shin. Just a few words of thanks before introducing our main speaker, Caoimhghín Ó Caoláin. And I just want to say it's a great honour for me. I loved Margaret, she was a wonderful woman. Herself and Alfie, she was a dancer, she was a singer, she was, as they say in Irish, a sparva, a spirit woman. She was a free spirit. She had a great sense of humour, and she always made us very, very welcome. So on behalf of the women in Armagh, the men who were on the blanket, Republicans generally in Belfast and throughout the island of Ireland, I just want to thank the Doherty family. And I know the big focus is always on Kieran, understandably. You know, but Michael, Brendan, Terry, Mairead, Roisin, and your partners and spouses and your children and grandchildren, these are brilliant people. Brilliant people. So thank you for what you all put up with.
Ball agus Carja, Clan Doherty, members and friends of the Doherty family. 38 years ago, last Sunday, on the 4th of August 1981, many of us here today, and thousands more, gathered with the Doherty family in Milltown Cemetery to pay our respects and demonstrate our support for the protesting Republican prisoners in Long Kesh, as we laid our comrade, volunteer Kieran Doherty TD, in his final resting place. His heartbroken parents stood at the graveside, his mother Margaret proudly holding the tricolour, beret and gloves that had lain on his coffin during his final journey. No mother, no parent has more proudly held these symbols of their son's or daughter's commitment to and service in the struggle for Irish freedom, for justice and for peace. And so it was that 38 years later to the day, that courageous and dignified mother drew her last breath. While Margaret Doherty's remains have now been placed beside those of the love of her life, her husband Alfie, who passed in January 2008, it is our belief and it is our shared hope that she is now also reunited with her son Kieran, whom she and Alfie so faithfully stood by through the most difficult of days. The truth of those dark and challenging months in 1980 and 1981, when men and women of courage and conviction, incarcerated in Long Kesh prison camp and Armagh jail, stood defiantly against the might and brutality of the British murder machine in Ireland, should be told and retold time and time again. Those of us who lived through those days should never forget, and those born since should be given every chance to know the truth of those times. There are many standout truths. The treachery of the British government, the cold-hearted intransigence of Margaret Thatcher, the brutality of the British armed presence in all its guises, the absence of justice from the judicial system, the state-sponsored sectarian murder gangs, the attempted criminalisation of Irish Republican prisoners and the ill treatment meted out to them, including strip searching, the shoot-to-kill policy, and the insidious broadcast censorship, to name but a few. Some of these offensive realities also presented south of the border. These abuses and the oppressive regime that spawned them were met head-on by an ever more determined risen people. For many, their energy and opposition was channeled through their local anti-H Block and Armagh jail action groups. Hundreds of thousands took to the streets across Ireland. In April 1981, the people of Fermanagh and South Tyrone elected hunger strike leader Bobby Sands their Member of Parliament. In June, the people of Monaghan and Cavan elected hunger strike prisoner Kieran Doherty their Chuck the Dála. Another protesting prisoner, Paddy Agnew, was elected in Louth. Coupled with the standout truths are countless standout memories of those times, and many of us will share them. An abiding memory, predominant in my thoughts today, is of a tall, dignified, quiet-spoken, graceful woman who could be neither browbeaten or cajoled into abandoning her promise to her son. She would stand by him and his comrades in their stand, no matter what. She and her husband would never seek to break their son's resolve, though their own hearts were breaking. Despite the inner anguish and the constant pressure from several sources, including from certain prominent priests of the church at that time, Margaret and Alfie stood resolutely behind their son. Margaret Doherty not only demonstrated strength, particularly as Kieran's hunger strike moved forward, but she undoubtedly gave great strength to her son, and she demonstrated a stoicism to all the parents and families of the hunger strike and protesting prisoners. But who was this woman of exceptional courage and dignity? Margaret Forsyth was born on the 3rd of June 1927 to a Protestant family in Belfast's Shankill. She was one of 3 children, 2 girls and a boy. She celebrated her 92nd birthday just 2 months ago and is survived by both her siblings. Margaret was an attractive, tall and elegant girl who loved to dance. Ballroom dancing was her great joy, and it was that passion that brought her on a journey in life that even she could not have foreseen. Alfie Doherty was a Falls Road Catholic, tall and handsome, who happened to also like to dance, and that is how they met. Ballroom dancing. I have to say, I think there should be more of it. Reuniting Ireland and the part it has played. Now there's a thesis for some university student that has never been touched before. Margaret and Alfie went on to become gold medal champions and have a collection of medals, gold, silver and bronze from their years on the competition dance floor. They competed successfully here at home and proudly represented Ireland, the island of Ireland, in international competition. Margaret had worked for a time in the Bass Ireland Brewery on the Glen Road. Alfie had worked as a floor tiler. In later years, many of you will know and remember, he took on the role of manager of the PD in Andersonstown. They got married in Dublin. Not everyone who could have been, or perhaps should have been, was there, but such were the circumstances of such a marriage and at such a time. Margaret had converted to Catholicism. Irrespective, and I think this is hugely important, irrespective of her attendance at either church or chapel, she was a devout Christian all her life. She was not only a gifted dancer, for, like Father Midlin, I learned from the family the other evening that she also had a great singing voice, and did, at least on one occasion, my Father Midlin didn't quite share this point with you, but I'm told she brought the house down when she performed in the Hippodrome in Belfast. Margaret was also a gifted craftswoman. She particularly liked to crochet and hand-produced a special doll that many children, one of my daughters included, I have to say, have cherished over all these years. It has always been a joy to spend time in Margaret's company. I personally cherish the very special relationship that I and my family have had with Margaret and Alfie and with all the Doherty family. That relationship extends to many of my friends and contemporaries across Monaghan and Cavan, and some of them are here with us today from both Cavan and Monaghan, and I welcome all of you here. But to say that many, many more people across both those counties and much further afield will be remembering Margaret today in their thoughts and prayers. A woman of strength and of conviction, Margaret Doherty was an Irish Republican committed to the achievement of a real republic, where the labels that have been employed to divide us would be replaced by the common name of Irish men and Irish women, a republic to which we would all be proud to declare our allegiance. On all our behalves, and on behalf of countless thousands throughout Ireland and amongst our diaspora, I extend heartfelt sympathy to Michael, to Terence, to Rushing, to Mairead and to Brendan, and to their spouses and partners, Betty, Geraldine, Rab, Liam and Charlene, and to Margaret's grandchildren, Grania and Kieran, Aisling, Ciara and Brona, Karen, Emma, Rushing and Jacqueline, Ryan and Leah, and to Anya, and to Catherine, and to her great-grandchildren, and 2 great-great-grandchildren. With Alfie, and with Kieran, and with all who have walked with her in this life, may she rest in peace. Suivnus Shiri da Anam Commedagh.
For the Mill Margaret, Caoimhghín, activists have 2 families. We have our own families and we have our Republican family. And I know the huge loss here today is for the Doherty family. But because Margaret and before her Alfie were members of our Republican family, this is also a deeply personal day and moment for us. So I just want to say again what I said previously. Thank you. I was one of the people with Owen Corran and Seamus Ruddy to visit the His blocks and to visit the hunger strikers in the prison hospital. And probably, apart from his family, perhaps the last person that Kieran spoke to. I remember, I think Alfie was there, he had just spelled Margaret, and Michael was there, if I'm right, as well. And Kieran said famously, Lanarai. And that's what we've been trying to do, is to keep going forward. When I was coming down from Twinbrook earlier on, I couldn't help but reflect on all of the incidents, all of the events, everything that had happened along that route, down to Commedagh, across Andytown, into St Agnes's, all the things that happened in our lives. So, I also want to thank Father McGlynn for telling the truth about this wonderful woman. And be sure of this, what we enjoy, and we've more to enjoy in the time ahead, because Margaret's great-grandchildren, her great-great-grandchildren will live in a free and united Ireland. That could not have happened without her and your father, Alfie. Golamila, my Óglach Kieran.